California, specific height requirements exist for the installation of switches, outlets, and electrical panels in residential dwellings. These regulations are detailed in the California Electrical Code, often referred to as the CEC, which is based on the National Electrical Code, known as the NEC. For switches and outlets in general applications, they must be installed at a minimum height of 48 inches above the finished floor. However, in bathrooms and other wet locations, switches and outlets must be installed at a higher minimum height of 60 inches above the finished floor. Electrical panels must be installed within a specific height range. The top of the electrical panel should not be higher than 60 inches above the floor, and the bottom of the electrical panel should not be lower than 24 inches above the floor. This height range ensures that the panel is readily accessible for maintenance and repairs. Electrical panels must also be readily accessible and not blocked by furniture, appliances, or other obstructions. Clear access to the electrical panel is crucial for safety and maintenance. There are certain exceptions to these height requirements. Firstly, switches and outlets may be installed lower than the specified height when necessary to accommodate wheelchair accessibility. Secondly, in crawl spaces or other areas where it would be difficult or impractical to install them at the standard height, lower installations may be permitted. Likewise, there are also exceptions to the electrical panel height requirements. Firstly, electrical panels may be installed higher than the maximum height if necessary to avoid obstructions or hazards. Secondly, in areas where there is a risk of flooding, raising the electrical panel above the potential flood level is permissible. The California Electrical Code is enforced by local building inspectors. During inspections, if a building inspector finds that switches, outlets, or electrical panels are not installed at the required heights, they may require the homeowner or contractor to correct the issue. Failure to comply with the CEC can result in fines, penalties, or other enforcement actions. It is important to consult the most recent version of the California Electrical Code and any applicable local amendments for the most up-to-date and accurate information. Always consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that electrical installations comply with all applicable codes and regulations. These regulations are in place to ensure electrical safety, accessibility, and compliance with building codes in California residential dwellings. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, serves as the foundation for electrical safety standards in the United States. It is a comprehensive document that outlines the requirements for safe electrical installations. States and local jurisdictions often adopt the NEC, sometimes with modifications, to create their own electrical codes. The California Electrical Code, or SEC, is California's version of the NEC, with some state-specific amendments. The purpose of these electrical codes is to protect people and property from electrical hazards. By adhering to these codes, the risk of electrical shock, fire, and other electrical-related incidents can be significantly reduced. The height requirements for switches, outlets, and electrical panels are designed to ensure accessibility and ease of use for all occupants, including those with disabilities. The specified height ranges are intended to make these electrical components reachable and operable by a wide range of individuals. The requirement that electrical panels be readily accessible and not blocked by obstructions is critical for safety. In the event of an electrical emergency, it is essential to be able to quickly access the panel to shut off the power. Obstructions can delay or prevent access, potentially exacerbating the situation. While the code provides specific height requirements, there are exceptions to these rules. These exceptions are intended to address situations where strict adherence to the standard heights would be impractical or would create other safety concerns. For example, the exception allowing lower installations for wheelchair accessibility ensures that individuals with mobility impairments can easily reach and operate switches and outlets. Similarly, the exception allowing higher installations in flood-prone areas protects the electrical panel from water damage, which could create a serious safety hazard. Building inspectors play a crucial role in enforcing the electrical code. They review building plans, conduct on-site inspections, and verify that electrical installations comply with the code requirements. If an inspector identifies a violation, they will issue a notice of non-compliance and require the homeowner or contractor to correct the issue. Failure to comply with the electrical code can have serious consequences. In addition to fines and penalties, non-compliance can also delay or prevent the issuance of occupancy permits. In some cases, non-compliant electrical installations may even pose a safety hazard, potentially leading to electrical shock, fire, or other incidents. To ensure compliance with the electrical code, it is essential to hire a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician has the knowledge, skills, and experience to install electrical systems safely and in accordance with code requirements. They can also advise on any specific requirements or exceptions that may apply to a particular project. It is also important to consult the most recent version of the California Electrical Code and any applicable local amendment. Electrical codes are updated periodically to reflect changes in technology, safety standards, and best practices. Using an outdated version of the code could result in non-compliance and potential safety hazards. In addition to the specific height requirements for switches, outlets, and electrical panels, there are many other important electrical code requirements that homeowners and contractors should be aware of. These include requirements for wiring methods, grounding, overcurrent protection, and appliance installations. A thorough understanding of the electrical code is essential for ensuring electrical safety and compliance. Here are some additional details about the specific height requirements and exceptions. Firstly, the 48-inch minimum height for switches and outlets is measured from the finished floor to the top of the outlet box or switch plate. This height is intended to make the devices easily reachable for most adults. Secondly, the 60-inch minimum height for switches and outlets in bathrooms and wet locations is intended to provide additional protection from electrical shock. Water can increase the risk of electrical shock, so raising the devices helps to minimize the potential for contact with water. Thirdly, the 24 to 60-inch height range for electrical panels is designed to ensure that the panel is accessible to a wide range of individuals, including those with disabilities. The lower limit of 24 inches ensures that the panel is not too low to the ground, while the upper limit of 60 inches ensures that it is not too high to reach. Fourthly, the exception allowing lower installations for wheelchair accessibility typically requires that the switches and outlets be installed at a height of no more than 44 inches above the finished floor. This height is considered to be accessible to most wheelchair users. Fifthly, the exception allowing higher installations in flood-prone areas typically requires that the electrical panel be installed above the base flood elevation, which is the elevation that floodwaters are expected to reach during a 100-year flood. Sixthly, when installing electrical panels, it is important to maintain the required working clearances around the panel. The NEC specifies minimum clearances in front of the panel and to the sides to provide adequate space for electricians to work safely. Seventhly, it is also important to ensure that the electrical panel is properly grounded. Grounding provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, helping to protect against electrical shock. Eighthly, when installing switches and outlets, it is important to use the correct type of wiring and to follow the manufacturer's instructions. Improper wiring can create a fire hazard or other safety risks. Ninthly, it is important to use tamper-resistant outlets in areas where children are present. Tamper-resistant outlets have a built-in safety mechanism that prevents children from inserting objects into the outlet. Tenthly, it is also important to have ground fault circuit interrupters, known as GFCIs, installed in bathrooms, kitchens, and other wet locations. GFCIs are designed to detect ground fault and to quickly shut off the power, helping to prevent electrical shock. In addition to the requirements for switches, outlets, and electrical panels, the California Electrical Code also has requirements for other electrical components such as lighting fixtures, appliances, and wiring. It is important to be familiar with all of the applicable code requirements before undertaking any electrical work. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is always best to hire a qualified electrician. Electricity can be dangerous, and it is important to take all necessary precautions to protect yourself and others. Here are some additional resources that you may find helpful. Firstly, the California Electrical Code, which can be obtained from the California Building Standards Commission. Secondly, the National Electrical Code, which can be obtained from the National Fire Protection Association. Thirdly, your local building department, which can provide information about local electrical code requirements. Fourthly, a qualified electrician who can provide advice and assistance with electrical installations. By following the California Electrical Code, you can help to ensure that your home is electrically safe and compliant. These regulations are in place for good reason, and it is important to take them seriously. When in doubt, always consult with a qualified electrician. Remember that electricity is a powerful force, and it should be treated with respect.